Ever since I was young, I've had a passion for people that just didn't fit into the normal way of doing things. That led to me working with young people who had psychiatric problems, young people who had addiction problems, and eventually young people who had intellectual disabilities or learning problems. So my passion has always been to try to take an institution or an organization that is meant to serve everyone and then try to make sure that it truly does serve everyone.
My name is Leslie Lesher, and we got to know Jim Strickland around 2010.
I first met Strickland when I turned 16.
Keith and his older brother and sister I raised them in Lake Stevens. And back then, Lake Stevens did not do with life skills kids what they do with them now. So he fell through a lot of cracks. A lot of his classes, he just kind of sat there. So by the time we got him to Jim, he had a lot of deficits, and his self-esteem was pretty low.
I was bullied, I was discriminated, I was turned away from, I was hurt.
By the time he got to middle school in Lake Stevens, well, 6th grade, there was sort of a half-baked life skills program, but they had the really profound kids in there. And so the teachers spent all their time with them.
I became a very upset and sad person. I got depression because of it, and it made me fall down a rabbit hole. It was horrible.
There wasn't anything really to try. And I was so defeated that we were just in a low point in our lives. When we moved to Marysville, his first school was Totem. But it took them, and they were superb at it, it took them a year just to get Keith's self-esteem up.
I told him it wasn't really the biggest thing yet, but it was better than Lake Stevens, by far.
When I first enrolled Keith at MP, they mainstreamed him. So I had to get him into Jim's program. And he was pretty timid, but it didn't take him long to come around. And
people started noticing me, and people started knowing who I was and understanding me.
Keith's growth over the 4 years was just phenomenal. He became somebody that the kids looked up to, and was class leader for a couple of years.
It brought out a side of me that I didn't even know was there.
Everybody liked him. He had a ton of friends. He was bullied a lot in Lake Stevens. And Jim just totally turned that around for us.
I met him, and it was somebody from my world, my planet, my place. It's like I've known him my whole life.
So my name is Jim Strickland, and I teach students with intellectual disabilities in our 18 to 21 transition program. These are students who have graduated from high school, they've finished their senior year, but they have 3 more years of transition services to help them get ready for life after school. I was at first exposed to education for people with disabilities when I worked at a hospital for young people with psychiatric problems. And eventually I just started realizing that the students who were there taking classes as part of their school program had horrible experiences in their local schools. And those horrible experiences exacerbated the problems that they had, mental health issues, psychiatric issues. So I took a job teaching in the hospital, and then that led into the public schools.
My name is Bill Fail, and I work with People First of Washington. It's an organization for people with disabilities. When I graduated, he became part of the teacher group here in Marysville. And so now This is my 4th year with him, bringing his students into advocacy and making sure that they have a voice when they come out of school.
A lot of times he gets embarrassed. We tell him that he saved our lives.
I've seen this growth in many of the students that are beyond what you would even be imaginable that they're capable of. It's an awesome experience.
The confidence that they exhibited and their joy in reaching out to me, and also building the same kind of bridges that I saw that Strickland was building.
So these students that might feel like they've grown into my program, it's only because they let me know what turned them on, as far as their intellect and their passion and their excitement.
He's able to adapt where a student may be struggling, and he brings out the best in each student and their ability to function at their level.
We want to find where engagement happens. We want to find what flips that switch and makes them come alive. If I can't find that, there's really nothing successful that's going to happen in my classroom. So if it has to start with Pokemon or Frozen or The Wiggles, you name it, if it has to start there, that's where we start.
You have to get somebody's self-esteem up before they can learn anything.
Me llamo Sonia Villalobos, soy la mamá de Jorge Farías y él está en el Life Skills Program. El maestro le dio la oportunidad a Jorge de que jugara en el fútbol americano de aquí de Getchell, de la high school. Él fue el que preparó todo junto con el coach. Y Jorge estuvo durante todo el juego echándole porras a los jugadores, estuvo muy contento, disfrutó con todas las personas que vi ahí, y es algo que a Jorge nunca se le va a olvidar, porque Jorge todo el tiempo ha querido jugar en el fútbol americano y él todo el tiempo ha querido jugar estar con los Seahawks.
I don't feel like there's anything unique that I do that is like, oh gosh, I come in here, I do this, and then change this person's life. All I do is I look for opportunities to help people come alive.
I've been like I said, worked with kids my whole life, and Jim's just been he's been sort of a mentor to me too.
The kinds of issues that my students have, all of us have. It may just not be expressed in exactly the same way.
And so I've patterned a lot of the way I teach after Jim Strickland.
We all long to be accepted for who we are. We want to be in a place where we feel community, where we feel like we belong.
And so it's not just the teacher part. It's the community part that kind of combines it together.
I'm better because of the students I work with. I think Getchell is better as a school because our students are here.
When Mr. Strickland moved on to the Getchell campus, my students started meeting with his kids on Fridays. We developed a birthday club to kind of celebrate the birthdays of the kids in his class. I noticed that my students, there was a joy in being able to serve in that way, to be able to get to know his life skills kids. And so it actually helped my students as much as his students, because
they bring something to this campus. It's a humanizing impact that our students have.
There was an immediate connection between the two classes, and he is always reaching out to other teachers, and so I noticed that immediately.
I'm with students for 3 years during the transition time, and my attitude is that's just the get to know you period.
Once his students are in his program, they're with him for life.
What I'm interested in is seeing them 10 years after school. What are they doing? Are they, and I want to still be connected and part of their lives if at all possible. Fortunately, we have numbers here that are small enough that we can create things that keep people connected after they leave school.
A year ago, me and Mr. Strickland started a club called Action Club. Most of us are like out of high school and even out of the 18 to 21 programs that happens afterwards.
And all of the students that have graduated from his program are still with him and still know him, are meeting with him in Action Club, are meeting with him. There's an open invitation for all of his students who have been with him.
They're past 21, so now they're 24, 25, and they come and they are just so happy to see Strickland.
What we're trying to do is build a community, build a life, not just teach a skill for X number of years and say goodbye.
We just wanted to like find something to do that we would stay connected, but also help with the community.
Our students start as members when they're 18 years old, but when they're 25, they can still be a member. When they're 30, they can still be a member and still doing the kinds of things we do in the community. So we try to blur that line between high school and adulthood by providing those opportunities.
My name is Deanna Sheldon, and my relationship to Mr. Strickland is through Leah's Dream Foundation, and also I've known him for about 8 years. One of my very first memories I've had with Mr. Strickland was at a holiday party, and my daughter Leah, she was really young at the age, and I remember walking into his classroom, and he had all the teachers there, and all the parents came, and I thought to myself, like, this is great. All the students were there, they got gifts, they had Santa, Mrs. Claus, pictures, and I really loved the way the atmosphere felt. Like there was a huge family atmosphere.
The legacy is building that bridge there that keeps school from becoming an isolated island of whatever, academia,
I want to be able to create this in the future. I want to be able to have this community based where the parents all knew each other. That atmosphere was something that was just contagious. And so it took us a couple years to get to what Mr. Strickland eventually was doing.
And I met Deanna, the Sheldon family, and they actually asked me for a paying job at the dump, which is Shellco. And I've been working there for a few years now.
Our relationship with Mr. Strickland has transitioned into he has really been one of the key people in Leah's Dream Foundation. He is always right there to help plan and get the dates set for the parties. He's also there as a mentor. So
Not only are our students connecting with the community while they're still in school, but our community is coming in and connecting with our students here on our campus.
I volunteered his first 2 years in the life skills program. I drove, because they didn't have bus service. So we drove the kids every Monday to the Marysville Food Bank. So that was a great experience for them. They did a sock drive for the homeless. We got involved with We Day, which is an organization that schools have to earn their way to their state's presentation of We Day. We Day's grown to be huge, so Jim's very involved in that.
They go to EB Slough, they go hiking every couple weeks. He hauls, I see him hauling all of his equipment out to go sing with the students. I've been to that a few times and seen the students who have been with him in the past.
But I think one of the most powerful things is that I look at my role as not just working with students, but working with families. So the parents of the students are kind of part of my classroom as well. And not only do we do things together as a group, both in and out of school, but I can get to know the students through the parents.
We've become friends with Jim and his wife.
Strickland still stays connected with their families. He still engages with them.
There's a connection that never ends.
Keith and his lifetime friend wanted to put a great big tent that I'd bought him. I mean, a huge tent in the backyard. And Keith texted Jim and said, "Will you come over and help us put up this tent?" And this was in the summer. I mean, he was not on the clock. I'll be darned if the next afternoon Jim wasn't in our backyard helping Keith put up, and Lenny put up that tent. So those are just the kind of things he does.
The moment that everything changed for me was I was talking to him one day, and we did this one thing, this open mic thing, and he heard me speak, and I just went on a rant, and he was like, "What?" He was like, did you just do that? There's no way. You're unbelievable." And I didn't believe him.
And he just is so good at inspiring and transcending that to everybody he's around.
And then people just started telling me, after they saw me, they were like, "You're good, you're great, you can speak." And it just sparked something in me. Like, I woke up the next day and I was like, I want to change the world. I want to do this. And right before that, I didn't want to be here anymore.
I mean, it's just contagious.
And overnight, it was just, I can't explain why. I wish I could. I wish I could.
I don't know. I think his kind of drive you're just born with. And then as you do it more and more, it just builds and builds.
Well, I believe that one of the most foundational values that drives my life is the belief that all people are equal. So how would you structure a school in order to make it so that it truly honored that value? That's something that excites me and something that I've always wanted to explore.
It's part of his personality. It's part of his kind spirit.
Ever since I was young, I've had a passion for people that just didn't fit into the normal way of doing things.
Like I said, it's just innate in him.
That led to me working with young people who had psychiatric problems, young people who had addiction problems, and eventually young people who had intellectual disabilities or learning problems. So my passion has always been to try to take an institution or an organization that is meant to serve everyone and then try to make sure that it truly does serve everyone.
The way he goes about his life, he's not a person who will boast about himself or talk highly upon himself. He always kind of wants to be, the silent person in the corner.
Mr. Strickland, in my opinion, he's like a reincarnated Mr. Rogers. He's just a loving, joyful, fatherly figure, always bringing people together.
He wears flannel shirts, but he doesn't have the sweater, but his personality is brought out just like Mr. Rogers because he cares so much.
Just brings life and brings joy and happiness to his classroom, to my classroom, to everyone around him.
He is compassionate, he is kind, he goes out of his way, he works off the clock, he's inclusive. He has wonderful ideas of what to do with these kids.
He's such a pivotal person in our community that people look to him.
He's so calm, he's so welcoming.
And he's so contagious.
Mr. Rogers is one of my heroes. I wish I could be as patient and as focused, on the needs of the people I'm working with as Mr. Rogers. But he was able to really put himself into the head and heart of a child and connect with them in a way that meant something to them. So, that's an inspiration to me. And that's what I try to do. You can't connect with someone on your terms. You have to connect with them on their terms.
The big thing is that I just want to say he changed my life. And I would not be here today if it weren't for him.